Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the FCCJ. My name is Tim Horniak. I'm a regular member here, and today we're going to be talking about fossil fuel financing. And as you know, Japan has been called the biggest fossil fuel financer in the world, and this week with the G7 summit in Japan, they're going to be talking about that. So it's on everyone's mind that's paying attention to the summit. So we have a distinguished panel of guests today who are going to talk briefly in turn. We have Makiko Arima from Oil Change International, the Japan finance campaigner, who is a Japan finance campaigner, rather. We have, let's see here. Oh yeah, Gerry Arances, the Executive Director of the Center for Energy, Ecosystems and Development, the Philippines. We also have from Friends of the Earth, Indonesia. I'm sorry, I seem to have a different lineup of speakers here. Excuse me. Let me just refer to the cards I have in my pocket here, and we'll keep on going. We have Makiko Arima. I have named Gerry Arances, okay, from the group CED, okay. We have Sawung right next to me here from Friends of the Earth Indonesia. And we have Sarmin Bristy from Coastal Livelihood and Environmental Action Network. Okay. So I ask you to turn off your cell phones or put them on silent mode, and we'll take questions at the end. We're going to start off our presentations with Arima-san, please.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? Thank you. So thank you for coming today, and the reason we're here is because we all believe in an energy secure future where our families are secure, safe from harm. And this is why Gerry Arances from the Philippines, Sarmin Bristy from Bangladesh, and Sawung from Indonesia are here today, 4 days before the G7 Leaders Summit takes place in Hiroshima. So the G7 is made up of the world's richest countries. They account for 40% of the world's economic activity, and they're responsible for a quarter of global carbon emissions. The G7 summit is an opportunity for these rich countries and those most responsible for the climate crisis to fulfill their obligations. We're here to urge Japan, as this year's G7 host, to put people and planet above dirty energy and corporate interests. We'll hear today from speakers on what fossil fuel finance means to their countries in South and Southeast Asia. The science is clear. We need to end our reliance on fossil fuels. According to the International Energy Agency, or IEA, and the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, according to their scenarios, maintaining a 50% chance to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees requires an immediate end to investments in new coal, oil, gas, and LNG infrastructure. Such investments also come with serious risks of stranded assets. Even in IEA scenarios that do not align with 1.5 degrees, the gas demand is forecast to drop. According to the IEA, these findings remain unchanged even in the context of the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the energy crisis that followed. Therefore, G7's commitment to keeping a 1.5 degree limit stipulates that they should explicitly rule out any investments in new gas supply or LNG infrastructure at the G7 summit. Japan is hosting this year's summit and should be leading the global energy transition. Instead, Japan is derailing the transition by continuing to finance fossil fuels and promoting technologies that expand and prolong their use, pushing us closer towards climate chaos. Japan is driving fossil fuel expansion, especially in Asia, blocking the transition to renewable energy. Japan has been the world's largest importer of LNG, and is exploring its role as a third-party provider of gas in Asian markets. They're doing this from Bangladesh to the Philippines to Indonesia. They're also pushing across the entire gas value chain, supporting Australian and US gas exports to Japan. And as we saw when Prime Minister Kishida visited Africa earlier this month, Japan is also promoting support for Mozambique LNG. After the G7 Climate, Energy, and Environment Ministerial held in Sapporo last month, the Japanese government has been emphasizing that the G7 have agreed to aim for the common goal of net zero through diverse paths according to each country's circumstances. Japan uses this rhetoric to promote fossil fuels in the global south, claiming that some countries in the global south, especially in Asia, that thermal power generation will continue to be important, and that some countries will have no choice but to use coal or LNG. Japan is using its diplomatic position to promote these dirty technologies at the G7 and also at ASEAN. This greenwashing attempt undermines meaningful efforts to address the climate energy crisis all over Asia. And it even tarnishes Japan's reputation for peddling and pushing dirty, expensive technologies as overseas development aid. The Russian invasion of Ukraine and the price spikes of gas have also shown that gas is far from reliable or cheap. Fossil fuel usage worsens the climate crisis, undermines energy security, and harms communities and ecosystems. Communities and leaders across Asia are rejecting dirty energy strategies that Japan's pushing and are mobilizing to stop Japan from derailing the global energy transition. There are strong international movements that have emerged calling out Japan and other rich countries, such as the Don't Ask Asia and Don't Gas Africa campaigns. The speakers today will illustrate the harms and risks of fossil fuel investment and development, rejecting the Japanese government's promotion of fossil fuels over renewables as a necessity in the Asian region. Last year, the G7 took a significant step forward, committing to end international public finance for fossil fuel projects. Between 2020 and 2022, G7 fossil fuel support totaled at least $73 billion US, which is 2.6 times their clean energy support over the same period. Japan was one of the top fossil fuel financiers. This public finance unlocks a much larger amount of private finance for these projects. Most of the public finance is given through loans and export credit guarantees to reduce financial risk for these projects. Shifting this money from fossil fuels to renewables will go a long way towards meeting the obligations of the world's richest countries. But G7 leaders weakened this commitment this year by adding loopholes on LNG and allowing new investment in fossil fuels at the G7 ministerial held in Sapporo. Japan has been pushing the G7 to support new upstream gas development, and the Financial Times revealed last week that Germany is also pushing for gas at the G7 summit. Leaving the door open for new upstream gas and LNG infrastructure is in direct contradiction to last year's G7 commitment to phase them out. It is critical that G7 members reiterate and strengthen last year's commitment to end international public finance for fossil fuels. At the Sapporo Ministerial in April, G7 ministers also claimed that they have fulfilled the commitment by the end of 2022 to end such finance. While France, the UK, and Canada have taken steps to fulfill their commitment, data shows that this is untrue for Japan. Most recently, the Japanese Export Credit Agency have announced that they are supporting the gas-fired power plant in Uzbekistan. Japan is a top provider of LNG finance, and data we gathered shows that 60% of LNG export terminal capacity built in the last decade had international public finance from the G7. Japan is also pushing for the expansion of fossil fuel-based technologies that extend the lifetime of fossil fuels across Asia. This includes fossil hydrogen, co-firing of ammonia with coal, and carbon capture, utilization, and storage, or CCUS. The G7's clean energy finance is currently largely going to wealthy countries as well, rather than supporting energy access or development in the global south. No low-income countries were in the top 15%, top 15 recipients of clean energy finance. What the G7 can do is by upholding and strengthening last year's commitments, the G7 can prevent backsliding and directly shift $24.3 billion in public finance out of fossil fuels and into clean energy. This would bring the G7's clean energy finance to $34 billion annually. This is a sum almost large enough to close the $36 billion energy access finance gap. The G7 have an obligation to act and to lead the global transition to renewable energy, and they're dragging their feet, and Japan is even heading towards the opposite direction. The most responsible for the climate crisis have the biggest obligation to cut emissions and their addiction to fossil fuels, and to take action to help safeguard our future. The science is clear. We need to end our reliance on fossil fuels, and the richest countries must do it by 2030. At the upcoming G7 summit, leaders must prioritize closing the door on investments in the new upstream gas and LNG infrastructure, avoid promoting ammonia co-firing and other fossil fuel-based technologies promoted by Japan, and reiterate their commitment to phase out fossil fuels and international public finance for fossil fuels to live up to its commitment to keeping the limit of 1.5 degrees within reach. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Next, we'll have Gerry, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Your turn.
Thank you for giving me the big opportunity to talk about the Japanese investment as the G7 countries in the energy scenario of Bangladesh. My organization, Clean, the Coastal Livelihood and Environmental Action Network, works with the environment and the energy sector in Bangladesh and South Asia. You know, Bangladesh is one of the most climate vulnerable country. We are trying to just graduate from a least developed country to developing country by 2027, but still the per capita income of our citizen is 2,469 USD, which is 16 times less than Japanese per capita income. So we cannot afford Japanese lifestyle. You know, Japan is one of the trusted friends, and all the time they support us more. In the last 52 years, Japan provided official development assistance of some 25 billion USD, split between loans and grant. This supports in the sector of energy, education, health, transport, all this. And we pay our hearty thanks to Japan for its continuous support. Japan has support more to develop the last PSMP 2010 and 2026. Currently, the Institute of Energy Economics of Economic Japan is formulated the Integrated Energy Power Master Plan, which actually assistance from the Japan International Corporation Agency, but they ignoring effective consultation with consumers and the energy expert. They propose that 30.7% fossil fuel and 32.8% so-called advanced technology, which is ammonia and liquid hydrogen and carbon capturing storage, and only just 17.1% renewable energy in the energy mix in 2050. Actually, it is contradictory to our national plan, because according to our Bangladesh Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan, we will want to achieve 40% renewable energy by 2041 and 100% renewable energy by 2050. The Prime Minister also committed in the same in 2021 during the UNFCCC COP26. In the Integrated Energy Power Master Plan and Institute of Energy Economics Japan and Japan International Corporation Agency also proposed ammonia, liquid hydrogen, and carbon capturing storage is the name of advanced technology. These technologies are not proven till now. Even developed countries like Canada, United Kingdom, and United States refuse to accept it. Secondly, the technology will also extend the life of coal and liquefied natural gas. That's thirdly, the technology are the 3 times more expensive than our current price, electricity price. So there is no cost to accept this advanced technology. The draft of Integrated Energy Power Master Plan just like advocacy to extend the liquefied natural gas and coal. It is known to all that this price is all the time volatile, and it is very tough to afford this as a lower developed country. The Integrated Energy Power Master Plans undermine the potential of renewable energy in Bangladesh. According to the draft of National Solar Energy Roadmap, Bangladesh can install 25 to 40,000 megawatt solar power plant by 2021, and the United States National Renewable Energy Lab estimated that we can able to install 30 to 60,000 megawatt wind energy. But JICA and Integrated Energy Economics Japan ignored both policy documents to impose expensive and unproven new technology. In the last month, 27 to 29 April, Bangladeshi 80 parliamentarian and 11 civil society organizations organized Bangladesh Energy Prosperity Conference. In this conference, 283 local, national, and international representative participant here. And in this declaration of the conference, the representative proclaimed 21-point demands. We strongly urge that JICA and IEAG formulate the Integrated Energy Power Master Plans with this declaration and Mujib climate prosperity to ensure energy sovereignty and decarbonize Bangladesh by 2050, in line with the Paris Agreement and Global Agri timeline. According to the prescription of the JICA, our government approved massive fossil fuel power plant last decade. So we in this sector we have to pay more compensation and more subsidy. And actually, current installed capacity in our country is 25 gigawatt, and our demand just 15 gigawatt. So 15% demand was ideal year-round. We live for hours of dark due to the fossil fuel shortage for the installed power plant. Thanks to Japan for cancelling the Matabari coal power plant phase 2. After a long overcry from many energy experts, climate activists, and organizations, including Clean, Coastal Livelihood, and Environmental Action Network, Bangladesh Working Group, and Group on External Debt. But the Matabari imported coal-based power plant phase 1 is still under construction, ignoring the life and livelihood of the local people, serious level of environmental pollution and economic risks. It also killed the Kohelia River and approach of road over it. The river is lifeline of these inhabitants, including the fishermen of the Matabari Island. In this situation, Japanese companies, especially JERA, Marubeni, Mitsubishi, Mitsui, and Sumitomo Corporation, are promoting polluting fossil fuel gas, especially liquefied natural gas and coal in this country, which actually undermine the 100% renewable energy target of Bangladesh. You may know Bangladesh is experiencing a serious shortage of fossil gas from local gas field. JERA owns 23% shares of Summit Power International, which is the largest fossil fuel company in the country, which is constructing a 583 megawatt LNG-based power plant in near to Dhaka, which is actually our capital city. And Gerry also acquired 49% of Reliance Bangladesh Liquefied Natural Gas and Power Limited, which is constructing a 750 megawatt LNG-based power plant in the same area. There is no source of supply this additional fossil gas required for these two power plants. Our government have to pay at least 140 USD for this additional expense. Gerry is also interested in investing in 36,100 megawatt LNG power plant installed by Summit, in addition to the liquefied natural gas importing infrastructure. We wrote Gerry to meet them and raise our concern, but they refused to meet with us, actually. And Mitsubishi also trying to invest Summit Power International to invest 3,600 megawatt LNG power plant and LNG-based power terminal and other associated infrastructure. Marubeni already signed an MOU with the Electricity Generation Company of Bangladesh Limited to install 1,200 megawatt liquefied natural gas power plant. It also signed another MOU with Rural Power Company Limited. Mitsubishi also signed an MOU with the Coal Power Generation Company Bangladesh Limited to install 600 megawatt liquefied natural gas power plant. Sumitomo Corporation withdrew itself from Matarbari Phase 2 earlier than the cancellation of the power plant by the Japanese government, but it is not committing to withdraw itself from the fossil fuel in Bangladesh. Like Ofoli, we the citizens of Bangladesh, we want a healthy and prosperous life to live and safe environment and breathable air. We can fulfill our basic need where we can afford all those clean energy and where we can get quality education and other health sectors and other sectors. For the safety of us and our future generation, the Japan government and private companies must support Bangladesh to achieve all those and 100% renewable energy by 2050. It should continue supporting other sectors like education, health sector, etc. Thank you very much for listening to me. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next, I think we do have Gerry, yes? No, Sawung, okay. I get it wrong every time. All right.
Yeah, thank you. From Indonesia, from WALHI, Wahana Lingkungan Hidup Indonesia, or in the international, we are part of the Friend of the Earth. We are Friend of the Earth Indonesia. Yeah, in general, situation of the energy in Indonesia is mostly still use fossil fuel in primary energy using coal and oil and gas. Oil and gas, mostly used for the transportation, and for gas, mostly used for the household energy, for the cooking demand. Also, are now increasing in the use for the electricity. And for electricity in general, we are still using mostly coal. We have now, last year, we have 81 gigawatt nationally, 81 gigawatts of capacity, more than 50% coal, around 42 gigawatt is coal, around 21 gigawatt is from gas. There is renewable energy only 12.5 gigawatts for renewable energy. And because of the Indonesia is we are archipelago, there is a separated system in Indonesia for big island like Sumatra and Java Island. They are already one big system, and mostly the power plant in Java, more than 50% the power plant in Java. The rest is in the other island, but a big part in Java and Sumatra. Sumatra around 20 gigawatts, Java around last year 44 gigawatt, and yeah, mostly they are using fossil fuel, and mostly using coal as source of the fuel. And Japan, I think, mostly financed by Japan, not only public finance like JBIC or JICA, but also private bank like the big three, the big three of Japan Megabank, Mizuho, SMBC, and MUFG is finance coal and gas in Indonesia. Also, they are financed in the upstream. Like Tangguh and yeah, Masela still ongoing, not yet started the process. Last time I go here in G20, they are signed for the Masela, but until this year we still not yet any started construction. Also, there are I think some miscommunication or management in that project, so they are one of the company get out from the consortium. In coal, the Japan public funding like JICA's. Last year they said the last project of JICA for coal, I think same with the Matabari in the Bangladesh, they are stop funding for Indramayu. Is big one for a big win, big one for us. But yeah, the community there already suffered from their struggle. Their farmland already lost to the project. Now they are still used, but now owned by the company. So they are now list that farmland. But yeah, the project stalled and canceled for JICA. For JBIC, they are not the last one. I think there is other projects, Lontar and Cirebon too. They are also affected people who live there. Next week they will come here and also campaign here. For G7, that you know, Japan joined the JETP, will finance energy transition in Indonesia. Not only JETP, Japan also with the ADB finance the ETM, energy transition mechanism in Indonesia. And one that will get the finance is Cirebon 1. But the next one, from Cirebon 1, will be operated within this month, Cirebon 2. For us, it's like, it's nonsense. You want to stop or early pension the Cirebon 1, but you will operate the more bigger one, the Cirebon 1, 660 megawatts. The Cirebon 2, 1 gigawatts is next to the Cirebon 1. Yeah, it's not make sense. You want to get one power plant to early retirement, but you want to operate it, the bigger one. And the people there get affected by the projects. A lot of the fishermen and salt maker lost their job there. Also, now ongoing the corruption case there. Still ongoing the money laundering case. The company, the subsidiary of the Gerry and Marubeni, Cirebon Energi Prasarana, bribed the locals official there, and now the court still ongoing. Yeah, but they are want to operate it, the Cirebon 2. This is there are a solid evidence that some money go to locals official there. There are already testimony last week in Indonesia about this money laundering case. Yeah, for the energy transition, I think there are Japan especially wanted to finance the fall solution. For us, this is fall solution. They still wanted to finance the gas, also the ammonia, hydrogen, and biomass, big biomass. They still want to put it in the not only JP, also in the ETM. Also for Cirebon 1, we are still wondering after retirement they will use what kind of fuel, or they still will want to operate it, that coal power plant. We are still on discussion in Indonesia, government and the company. They want to change the fuel to others, but we still don't know. They want to gas or biomass or others, but I think the Japan financer want to push using the, if not biomass, gas, or ammonia or hydrogen. They are started to testing in several power plant in Indonesia. So we didn't want, they are retired from coal, but they are still using the other fuel mixed with the coal. Not really retired the coal power plant, but just change the fossil fuel to another kind of fossil fuel. Maybe.
Okay, thank you. All right. So last but not least, we will have Gerry. And if you could try to keep it as brief as possible to leave time for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Gerry Arances from the Center for Energy, Ecology and Development. So just like many countries in Southeast Asia and South Asia, like Bangladesh, the Philippines is one of the poster childs of climate vulnerability. And it's actually the 10th year today, this year, of our commemoration of one of the most devastating storm in the history of humanity, which is called Typhoon Haiyan. And it also catapulted the fight on loss and damage, which we won back then in Warsaw, which is called the Warsaw Mechanism on Loss and Damage, which we continued to fight, and we won, last COP to create the Loss and Damage Fund. This is also parallelism to what has happened in the Philippines in the last decade. The last decade has been a feature of massive coal expansion in the Philippines. So imagine a country that is very vulnerable to climate change is also expanding its reliance on coal. And it includes funding from Japanese institutions. Many of the likes of JBIC, Marubeni, whom we've all fought, and finally won in 2020 when the people have forced the government to declare, finally, a coal declaration. In 2020, we were still facing around 15 gigawatts of 22 coal projects. It's now down to at least 1 gigawatt with a couple of projects. So there is actually hope, especially in the climate context. There is also hope for Japanese investments. The Filipino people were delighted already that at last the country can now tap the vast potential of renewable energy in the country. Over 30 times the current overall power capacity can be tapped through renewable energy. In fact, RE projects and programs have been on full steam as we speak. Starting next year, around 2 gigawatts of solar will displace fossil fuel and run 24/7 with the lowest electricity prices through green energy auction, which was last year. Government is still pushing for another 11 gigawatts in the next 3 years, succeeding year for auctioning. Indeed, the country is in the cusp of RE transition and displacement of fossil fuel. We are so delighted with this development. But unfortunately, with all this potential and development, government and corporations like Japan, through JBIC, JERA, and many others like SMBC, are pushing for major LNG and fossil gas expansion in my country. Around 35 LNG power projects with 34 gigawatts is being pushed and led by San Miguel Corporation, which is funded by Japanese banks and investors like SMBC. There are 12 new LNG import terminals, first of which is funded by JBIC. This is not a transition. It is a detour from renewable energy and low prices of electricity and creation of a new stranded asset in the country. This expansion, supported by Japan, is not only diverting the country from tapping its vast potential, RE potential, it is perpetuating insecurity despite Japan's mantra of promoting energy security, as this expansion will further deepen dependency to imported, expensive, and dirty source of electricity, notwithstanding the huge climate implications of this massive expansion. At the center of this massive expansion in the country is the destruction of the Verde Island Passage, the Amazons of the ocean, as we call it, where 60% of global marine shorefish can be found, and hundreds of other species like corals, mangroves, and many others are actually located. JBIC and other Japanese financiers are funding the destruction of this key biodiversity hotspot, which is not a treasure just of the Philippines, but a treasure of that of the world. In fact, this project has been subject of numerous ongoing legal cases, including a cease and desist order from a government agency for its violation. And it is JBIC who is pushing and funding through its shares through AGNP LNG terminal, which is now in operation. In fact, as we speak, it is being devastated now, the Verde Island Passage, with a massive 900 liters industrial oil spill by San Miguel corporations. Such is the case as well in Southeast Asia, where the largest expansion in Asia is happening. Japan is repeating itself, what it did more than a decade ago, by promoting dirty, deadly, and costly sources of power and energy through coal expansion, but with it joining the global movement pushing for energy transition, quote unquote, through the JET-P and many others initiative. And despite all the inadequacies, with this massive push of fossil gas supported by its corporations, Japan is doing what it did more than a decade ago, being the #1 financiers and investor in the region. It is promoting a new stranded asset, notwithstanding the demise of host communities, destruction of key biodiversity hotspots in the region, and added burden to ratepayers. Lastly, Japan needs to transition and build instead its renewable energy capacity. It has a vast potential given its weight and industries. If not, as we have fought the coal avalanche in the last decade and won, we will fight this push again. We will unmask the real agenda of Gen X by Japan. It is not for Southeast Asia energy security. It is not for poverty reduction. It is not for the climate goals of this region, but only for the benefit of Japanese corporations and financiers still clinging on fossil fuel and further perpetuating and exacerbating of the climate crisis. As G7 will take place in Hiroshima, there are a lot of parallelism that I can remember. It is where, quote unquote, the World War II ended. While I personally do not condone the nuclear devastation, and many of us, it ended Japanese military and annexation goals, quote unquote. I hope that the Hiroshima G7 will also end the fossil fuel addiction of Japan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that powerful stuff. So I'm going to open up the floor to questions, if anyone has a question. If so, please raise your hand, come up to the microphone, state your name and affiliation. Anybody here? Okay, for the time being, I'm going to go to some online questions we have. The first one I have here is from Eric Johnson of the Japan Times newspaper. He has a question for Arima-san. Why do you think that Prime Minister Kishida has taken such a different approach to fossil fuel plants and technology than former Prime Minister Suga? And who exactly in Japanese industry, the bureaucracy, or the LDP is strongly pushing Kishida to support CCUS, the carbon capture use strategies, ammonia coal firing, and new nuclear power plants. What's your response?
Thank you for your question. I'm not sure if I have a clear answer for it, but I think we see that Prime Minister Kishida has taken a very different approach to Prime Minister Suga. As you know, during Prime Minister Suga's administration, he agreed to the end of coal public finance and announced Japan's 2030 target to reduce emissions by 46 to 50% compared to 2013 levels, which was a big announcement at the time. And he also had very he had placed officials within his cabinet who were interested in promoting this phase out of fossil fuels, including Minister at the time of the Environment, Mr. Koizumi. So it's very different now, and as you can see, the Prime Minister Kishida has been pushing for fossil fuels, and this isn't part of today's topics, but as well as nuclear energy, which are the technologies that Japan is pushing, has strengths in, or technologies that Japan has strengths in compared to renewables. I think it's a combination of the Japanese ministry, METI, as well as the LDP, as well as strong industry interest. It seems like it's an all Japan interest to promote these technologies, and they're supporting each other in promoting this technology. I'm not sure if that answers everything, but.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have anything to add to that? Okay. If not, I'll move on to another question. Any other questions do we have here from the floor? No? Okay, I'm going to move on to another question sent online from Nitin Koka for Energy Monitor. Okay, the question is, I have often seen the Japanese government, or METI, claim that Southeast Asia lacks sufficient wind or solar renewable resources, and that is one reason for the need to continue using LNG or coal/CCS, carbon capture and storage. What is your response to that? Who would like to take that one on? Yes, please.
It's actually an old alibi, which we've actually seen in the last decade on coal. That coal is clean through many technologies. Coal is cheap, affordable, and renewable energy cannot do it. Okay, and one of the measures in the country was to implement. We have one of the first renewable energy law, which was not fully implemented in the last decade, and it was only implemented because of the push of the people at the tail end of this last decade. And now we're seeing the fruits. Just recently, around 21 gigawatts of new offshore wind permits were actually given. And left and right, including foreign corporations from Europe and the US, are actually securing permits to build offshore wind. It's an end game, actually, for in terms of displacement. As I've mentioned, renewable solar had a successful auction last year, which was the first in the Philippines, probably first in Southeast Asia, could be, in terms of green energy auctions, which was the lowest tariff, and it was 2 gigawatts, and then succeeding years will actually have around 11 gigawatts. So it's an end game in terms of conversation on capability. Of course, intermittency will always be an issue, right? And one of the key actors in the country is actually San Miguel as well. While we fight San Miguel's push for LNG and coal expansion, San Miguel is actually poised to also lead the transition, because it has just rolled out its 1 gigawatt battery storage system, which is linked to the national grid. And once the 1 gigawatt will actually go online, around a quarter of that has gone online already, and within the year it will be finished. That's also an end game scenario for the issue on intermittency. And that includes the 2 gigawatts that I mentioned. The 2 gigawatts is 24/7 already. It's not, it is with batteries. So the issue on the old issues against renewable energy in the Philippines is an old alibi.
Okay, sorry, could you just tell us a little bit more about San Miguel? Maybe some people know it as a beer maker, but what is it for people who are not familiar with it?
Yeah, San Miguel Corporation is known, including in the Philippines, as a beer maker, and that's why we do not launch a boycott San Miguel campaign, because it's so hard. You don't have any other beer in the Philippines. But San Miguel is a conglomerate. It has expanded to many industries, and one of the biggest industry that it has expanded is the energy and power industry. It is actually in peril as we speak. Even the likes of Bloomberg came out with white papers because of the inadequacy of San Miguel to manage even paying its maturing bonds and maturing loans. And those are easily available materials. And so San Miguel is at the forefront of the LNG expansion. And it's really problematic as we speak, including its power procurement, which is a collateral for new investors, have been actually either canceled or withdrawn. So there's a lot of opposition in terms of from the ratepayers to further expand fossil fuel-based electricity dependency, because in the Philippines, we have like 200% of increase on tariff. And it's really painful and it's right now it's so hot in the Philippines, around 40 to 50 degrees Celsius, and people would, just turn off their electric fans. They cannot even afford air conditions, just like Japan does, because of increased rate pay percentage. And Japan is actually very exposed in this in terms of its projects, including that of San Miguel.
Okay, thanks. Any other comments? Yeah.
Yeah, Indonesia, I think is more the problem in the grid or the system. When they are build the grid or they are planning for the grid, they are plan for the big not for the renewable energy. They plan it for the big power plant, yeah, for coal. The system they built like that, so it's difficult to put some renewable energy or small. Not only renewable energy, also the small power plant is difficult to go into the system. Even now, there is a lot of people who install their own solar panel. It's difficult if they are going to the system or the grid. Not only the system or the grid, also the regulation is difficult. Not as difficult as 5 years ago, but they are still difficult. The other problem is this is more technical things. They built for the wind. They built the wind power plant. They're using the design that use not based on the Indonesian condition. They built the proper or the wind proper turbine with the design in Europe or in the other country. The wind in Indonesia is different. They must not using the like this, yeah.
Big shaft of the
shaft like fan, but they used to be like this. Yeah, different design because of different wind in Indonesia. Also for the solar, we are different in Indonesia. More heat than the light. There's two type of sun. They are give us heat, and they are give us the light. The most, I think, almost 90% of the solar panel now designed by the
Chinese?
Chinese, but the design by the Japan or German.
Okay.
They're using the northern technology that more light than heat. So the efficiency in Indonesia more low. That's why, and for Indonesia didn't have any factory that built their own solar panel that based on the condition of Indonesia. That's why there is not suitable kind of the solar panel that installed in Indonesia.
Okay, thank you. Okay, great. Any questions from the floor? No? Okay, I'm going to go to another question sent in online. This one's from Dennis Normill of Science magazine. He asks, renewables are increasingly price competitive. Will these new fossil fuel plants become non-competitive stranded assets? Will the citizens of these countries have to pay for more expensive fossil fuel power? What do we think about that? Yes, please.
As I have mentioned a while ago, renewable energy is around 3 pesos and 50 cents. That's the lowest. There's actually even lower, like solar with around 2 pesos and 99 cents, so 3 pesos. So that's, I can't convert it into dollars, but compared to fossil gas, which is around 7 pesos to 10 pesos per kilowatt hour right now. So that's 3 times. For coal, that's more hilarious. Coal is around 10 pesos to 15 pesos per kilowatt hour, so depending on the contracts. And so many of the contracts, the PPA contracts, is being scrutinized now because of, it's not serving the public good, which is actually mandated under the law, which promotes for electric consumer rights and least cost manner, which clearly violates because of some structures that fossil fuel can hide its true fuel cost and it's passed on to ratepayers rather than renewable energy providing for straight price, right? It's more of the upfront cost that is needed, wherein there's already a lot of financial mechanisms globally and even in the country to actually do that. And in the case of the Philippines, it has gone to the extent that a lot of cases have been filed to restrict this pass on by fossil fuel. And I can cite some big cases which could actually be relevant to Japanese investments and the likes of San Miguel. And because San Miguel, the 2 PPAs of San Miguel on fossil gas, one is now a case that has gone to the Court of Appeals because the Energy Regulatory Commission have disallowed them to pass on new cost because it was the PPA is straight pricing. In 2019, they were so proud of themselves that they never anticipated that the volatility of prices of LNG supply, which is actually a case right now and a case that will be continuing, and that's why we've been saying that eventually all these power plants, LNG power plants, will be a new stranded asset, and bailout mechanisms such as the JETPs, the ETMs will again be cooked up and put Japanese investments, which is either from the ratepayers or taxes from Japanese citizens or the shareholders of the corporations such as Gerry or many others, and such is the case of the Philippines, and I think many in Southeast Asia are now having this conversation, including in Thailand, because it's really it's not even just a conversation on climate imperatives. It has gone to the extent of economic imperatives because of these pass-on prices from fossil fuel.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any other questions in here or otherwise? We only have a few more minutes left. I have a question. As we mentioned last year, Japan joined other G7 countries in stating that it will stop public financing of new fossil fuel projects. Although I think they inserted a couple of qualifiers like unabated, which means that if they're using carbon capture and storage, maybe those are okay, and only new ones, so maybe existing ones are okay, this sort of thing. But still, I guess it's a significant development. What about in terms of the private sector? Since the public sector says it's going to stop in these countries, what about in the private sector? How do you hope to stop private sector investment in these fossil fuel industries? Any thoughts on that, anyone?
Sure, I can start. I think looking at the example with coal can give us an idea that Japan, the government finally stopped public financing for coal 2 years ago, I think, yeah. But I think that was, it wasn't, the government was also getting pressure, banks and corporations were also kind of questioning the future of coal investments as well. That helped, and obviously civil society was also pressuring out, putting a lot of pressure on. But even after the government pulled out, as we heard today, Matabari and Indramayu are examples of private financing still continuing. So I think and as I mentioned when I was talking that public finance opens up a lot of private finance as well because it reduces the risks. So it works both ways, but I think there is additional need for the private sector to take initiative and realize, and for investors to realize that, as Gerry said, these are stranded assets.
Right. Please.
Yeah, I think for private, for the electricity that go to the grid, they stop for coal, they stop. But if there is for captive, like for the smelter, we see they still continue to finance for the smelter. Not only gas, but also coal. They are still try to finance the coal for the captive here for like the industry. But for the general electricity, there is no such. I think I didn't saw any finance from the private. But the others is in the upstream, in the mining, also in the oil and gas upstream. They still finance the upstream, and I think we took longer time for stop because I think they still think for the profit. In the upstream, this is bigger profit rather than in the downstream.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Maybe one last question. What do you want to hear from the G7 leaders this week?
Thank you. Actually, we want, as a Bangladeshi citizen, we want they fully phase out the fossil fuel and LNG-based power plant, and also promote renewable energy, which our national plan has. There are many potential, as I have said that. Please promote this renewable energy and align with the Paris Agreement and our national policy and Mujib climate prosperity. Yeah, that's. Thank you.
Sure.
Maybe as the main culprit of the climate crisis, the G7, which has all the historical responsibilities, they should basically raise the ambition. And amongst the G7, we know for a fact that Japan has always been lagging behind. And there has to be pressure and consensus in terms of raising the ambition. As I mentioned a while ago in my opening speech, today is the 10th year commemoration of Typhoon Haiyan. 20 plus thousand lives lost. Millions haven't really recovered. And that was only 0.8 degrees warming based on industrial period. We cannot, today is 1.1 degrees. I cannot imagine that my kids and our kids will actually be growing up in a 1.5 degree world, much more a 2 degree, 3 degree, 4 degree, 5, 6. It's unimaginable. And there is hope. There is one concrete step, is to weed away, especially for the G7, from fossil fuel, its fossil fuel addiction, without any delay and without any more false solutions, just like CCUS, ammonia co-firing, and even hydrogen through LNG in particular, and many others that will be cooked up in the future. It's a win-win situation for globally for us to actually own this journey towards 100% renewable energy shift. One can say in the Philippines that it's been 50 years that we have not addressed providing electricity to far-flung areas because we are an archipelago. There are still millions of Filipinos, and renewable energy can, easily, get rid of it. So there's a lot of benefits globally, and I hope that G7 in Hiroshima will actually, open up a new journey for everyone.
Okay, on that note, I'd like to thank everyone for their attention and thank the panelists for their comments. It's been very interesting, and we will see what comes out of the G7 this week. That'll wrap it up for us now. Thanks very much.